Okay.
Yeah, 100%. Assalamu alaikum, everybody, and welcome to Candid Convos. I am Nadia Mansour. Today we're going to be talking about what it means when you're Muslim and you have to leave your friends to go and pray, and kind of how that conversation can go about. You know, when you're about to leave your friends, you need to go pray. How do you communicate that? Especially with non-Muslim friends, it may be difficult for some youth growing up. Here to discuss this is Halima. Halima, welcome.
Assalamualaikum.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good, alhamdulillah, as well. So let's dive right into this. So let's talk about the concept of prayer, right? Because I remember watching this Islamic lecture about prayer specifically, and it said that, like, if you don't think it's a priority, you won't do it. And that's so true for many things in our lives. So for you, what does prayer mean? And why, for you, is that something that you truly believe in the value of it and prioritize it in your life?
Yeah. Obviously, Salah was something that's always been preached to us since we were young. One of the first steps that we learned as we were little kids about praying, if you were born into a Muslim family, is how to pray. And so obviously many young Muslims have that instilled in them, but it's also important as you grow older to want to pray for yourself, because obviously your parents aren't always going to be there to watch you when you're in school, when you're hanging out with your friends. For me specifically, it was, I guess prayer, after speaking to a lot of teachers, especially who are younger, because obviously you can relate to them a little bit more, I've come to understand that obviously prayer is essential to a Muslim, but it also provides us for a time of our day to really focus on our iman, especially when we're always so busy with school. There are so many benefits to it. It's obviously essential, and it keeps us connected to God and our prophet, peace be upon him, and everything before. So it's all about recognizing that this is not just something that I'm doing to please my parents or to please my siblings or whatever. It's something that I need for myself. And I think once we realize that, hey, this is important for me, just like food or water, whatever it is, then Salah will kind of have the same priority in your life.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, I completely agree with everything that you said. It's likewise for me. I mean, I definitely know that, like, personally, like, I went through an up and down kind of stage in my life where I think that Salah was especially difficult. I was like, it, as people would put it, it's like a burden. It isn't a burden, but
Yeah.
you go through those ups and downs where you're like, I'm so busy, I have to stop and make wudu and pray, and really it is only 5 minutes, but it's a mental thing, right? And as soon as I made that switch in my mind where I was like, I don't just want this, I actually need this.
Yeah.
I actually need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he doesn't need us. He's fully 100 and bajillion% capable of creating and keeping in power with creation and everything. And we are actually the ones who are super in need of him. And I started really seeing the difference that it made for me in my day. Just keeping up with Salah. So from your experience, tell me a bit kind of about, like, your friend circle. Like, do you have non-Muslim friends? Have you had this discussion and been like, sorry, I need to go pray? And if so, how have they reacted to that? Do they really care? Is it really as big as we put it in our minds to have this conversation?
Yeah. So the vast majority of my friends are actually non-Muslim. I maybe have like one Muslim friend, and she obviously prays on her own time as well, but the vast majority of them are non-Muslim. So I've definitely had that feeling of, hey, even when we're hanging out, like, hey, I need to go pray. What am I supposed to do? And initially in like elementary school, for example, that wasn't really an issue because I went home for lunch and it wasn't a big deal. But when it came to high school, I was definitely a little bit concerned at the beginning and just kind of stopping in between lunch during our conversation and heading off to prayer. But eventually what I realized is that it's not really that big of a deal. You're taking out 10 minutes of your time, and it's not like you're praying in front of the whole school. You're able to find a place, hopefully, that has been set out by your administration. And if it hasn't, then definitely something that you should speak to them about, because it is your right to have that place. But yeah, once I just kind of told them, hey, I have to pray a certain amount of prayers every day, and I'll stop in between lunch. Nobody really even seems to care. They won't really even notice if you go and come back. Um, so what I found is that initial, like, hesitancy that I had about prayer, it wasn't a big deal, and people are always super understanding, and they were never even too curious about it. They just kind of recognize that, hey, she has to pray at this time, and so she's going to go do that. When it comes in public and hanging out with your friends, it is a little bit different when you're not really at school. But a similar circumstances could apply. Just find yourself a small place to pray, and they should be understanding if they're friends and they want to know you better and respect your religion.
I agree with that. I think in high school, there was like a smaller kind of group of Muslims, and not even that for me. What made it more difficult is that there were not female Muslims that were also like my age. So, at least at at the high school that I attended. So I remember just being especially like, yeah, I'll just make it up as soon as I get home. Like I just felt so uncomfortable with the idea. And of course, being in a smaller town, like it's not, I'm pretty sure like the school probably would have accommodated if I had asked, but it was like, it was even hard to just ask. I was like I don't want to be like that weird kid. Like, why do you need to pray right now? Like, that's so weird. Because in all my other friends that have other religions, like most of the people who have interacted with who have another religion are Christian. So then they just attend Sunday prayer, right? So
Yeah.
it's not like it's something like, oh, why are you, or they just make a prayer before eating or going to bed, just something like that. It's not like in Islam where we pray 5 times a day, and it takes that time away. But now that I'm in university, and I feel a lot more, especially as I've gotten older, just like a lot more like unshakable, a lot more like, when you grow up, we're all, especially if you're born Muslim, you just grow up with the deen and you're like, this is what's expected of me. But especially now I'm at a place in my life where I didn't just grow up with the deen, but I found out what it means for me as a whole. And therefore I'm more comfortable with my deen because it's 100% part of my identity. It's not just something that's part of my identity. It's in me. It's like Islam. I would just be not the same person without it. And realizing that made it so much easier for me to be like, I need to pray. Sorry. And I've gotten so much more confident, so much more at ease saying that. And I don't know about other universities, but my university has a women's center. So only women are there, and so it's just a little kind of quiet place. Sometimes there's other people in there, but I've just requested, like, I just need to pray really quick. If you guys don't mind just being quiet for like 5 minutes, we'd really appreciate that. And they're chill. And for me, I mean, if somebody else has some similar facility, it's definitely more comfortable moving around, right, or around other women. And it's just a quiet place, but likewise, it's definitely important to reach out and find those places that you can make your prayer in. Obviously, in a clean place too, as well, right?
Yeah.
So, how would you go about advising somebody? Like I kind of touched on my story and what made me kind of a little bit more confident, knowing that I've struggled with this too. But everybody's different, right? Everybody experiences their journey and their religious journey differently. So what advice would you have for somebody who's struggling with this?
Yeah, especially if you're at school and you have to pray your salah at school, the first thing, even before you try and have that conversation with your friends, I think is to first find an established place to pray. Chances are, inshallah, your school has some kind of area or some kind of room or something where you can pray, and there should be, obviously, at the high school, and there are many rooms, and they're not always occupied. But first, find a place where you can pray so you don't have to also worry about finding a place to pray and then telling your friends about it. It's just too many issues at once for you. So first, find a place to pray. And then the second thing is, when it is time for prayer and you let your friends know, hey, I have to pray at this time, naturally, questions will come up like, hey, why are you praying? Or something like that. First, recognize that you don't have to give everybody all the answers about Islam. You're not a scholar. You can just say, hey, I have to pray a certain amount of times per day, and it's a part of my religion, and However much you want to say, always, realize your comfort level. And if they're further interested, always recommend them to different resources that if you'd like, because if your friends are asking you about your religion, it shows that they're interested in you. And even if they don't, it doesn't really matter. So long as they have some kind of understanding that they have to pray at this certain time. And if they're
Mm-hmm.
kind of giving you a little bit of hesitancy surrounding it, like making you feel uncomfortable about it, it's
Mm-hmm.
natural. Not everybody understands the idea of praying 5 times a day, and it's definitely compared to other religions, we do pray a lot more, alhamdulillah. Well, at least from the outward perspective, I don't know too much about other religions, but
Mm-hmm.
Muslims pray 5 times a day, and that is quite rare amongst other religions. So it is natural for people to be like, "Hey, that's kind of weird," but that's totally okay as well. If your friends are genuinely care about you and they genuinely want to know about you, they'll fully understand. And once you have that conversation, it's great because you never have to have it again. Once you tell them that I have to pray certain amount of times a day, they'll fully understand that the next time you have to, the next time you have to. So
Yeah.
naturally, I think it's great if your friends ask you about your religion and it shows that they're interested, but even if they don't, it's totally normal.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good, valid points. I think um, something that I realized and I felt like I really had to learn the hard way was that we're like, oh, we can be Muslims and fit in. Like, we can fit in with other people. Um, I'll try to find a way to do that. I don't think it's possible. And I don't mean that in a very derogatory way, like Muslims can never fit into society, but how we are now, especially where we're at in the world now, our beliefs are so valid to us, right? And they're so prominent in our everyday life. For example, in the form of prayer,
Yeah.
right? It's a physical way of affirming your belief in Islam.
Yeah.
And so what I found was that you don't have to fit in. And as soon as you stop thinking like, oh, like I've got to fit in, I got to be cool, it'll make it so much easier for you to be like, I'm Muslim, but that's okay. Like, I'm not an alien. I'm just Muslim, and I'm going to do things differently, and I'm going to have a different response than other people. I'm going to have to leave and pray. I'm going to, not partake in certain things. Um, like there's a point where it's like you can't normalize something, right? Like, prayer is prayer. You can't be like, Billy Bob Joe, I'm just gonna go quickly, like, I don't know, and call it something else. Like, don't shy away from it. You are going to be different. Um, but just know that your reward is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? That bravery, the gumption to just go in and go out and do these things and be proud of your faith and make that prayer. Just know that reward is never lost. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will always reward you for all your efforts. And, likewise, I always say, like, we never know what that token to Jannah is. And this could be it, right? We never know. But,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, and Salah also isn't really like an abnormal thing. Lots of people pray in different ways. And I think as Muslims growing up, especially in countries like Canada and the US, with so many diverse array of religions and cultures and all of that, and Islam not being necessarily the dominant thing, you can
Yeah,
feel a little bit isolated, a little bit different. But
for sure.
even though it is, I guess, yeah, different from people around you isn't necessarily a bad thing. Uniqueness is always great and it contributes to diversity and all of that. So even though, you may feel abnormal at times, know that it isn't really a weird abnormality. It isn't even an abnormality. It's just a way that you express your faith and your religion. And naturally, it's good for you. We all know why Salah is important. It connects us to our faith and all of that. So you should never feel like, hey, I'm being forced to do this thing by my religion. Once you fully understand why you need to pray Salah for yourself, then you have no discomfort praying it in front of not really praying in front of other people, but moving away from your friend groups for a couple minutes a day and going to pray. So you really need to establish that intention for yourself and not really go do it to show your parents or anybody. And then once you do that, you'll feel uncomfortable without praying. And that's obviously a really, really good thing.
Yeah, for sure. Anyways, I think that kind of wraps up this Candid Convos episode. Thank you so much, Halima, for your time and coming here to discuss. You are very brilliant in your responses, and so it's very appreciated.
Yeah, I had fun. Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum.
And that wraps up another episode of Candid Convos. If you would like to follow us on social media, it is at My Voice Canada on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And if you'd like to check out our website, it's myvoicecanada.com. You can check out updates, what we're up to, and even how to get involved with the work that we do. We'd love to have you join what we're up to and what we're getting up to, and engaging in the community. And that's it. I hope everybody has a wonderful day. Assalamu alaikum.